Welcome to Underpinned Blancmange. Today I want to actually talk about my two favourite apps for learning Spanish. If you don't know, I'm a student of the Spanish language. I'm also a English language teacher, but this is really about my experiences of learning Spanish, and I am still struggling with the Spanish language. I find it torturous trying to improve my language skills, but I want to talk to you and share with you my favourite two apps for learning Spanish, and ones which I use literally every week. I should note that I think applications or apps for learning languages can really be split into two camps. On the one camp, you've got learning applications which are actually designed to try and help you learn the language. I mean, examples of these would be Memrise or Busuu or Duolingo. Now, me personally, I think they have a place. I think it really depends on what your learning aims are, what your level are, and what your actual learning goals are. Are they short or mid or long term? Personally, I don't think that those applications are too useful after a certain point, whether that be 3 months or 6 months. I don't think that those apps are actually that useful. So the apps I'm going to be looking at today are actually two natural apps, or what I call natural apps, which are really applications that are not designed to teach you the language. They're just useful tools that a language learner like me, who's trying to learn Spanish, can use, and I think they're absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's natural learning in the way that you're having to, use the language to use the app. So, a Spanish speaker would use it just as much as somebody who is learning a language. So my two favourite apps I'm going to give you today, and I would consider them natural apps rather than learning apps. Okay, so my first app is an app called Codicross. How can I explain what Codicross is? It realistically is just a modern form of the crossword. You are asked questions, you're given a number of spaces, and you have to work out what the answer is from the letters. So you might be asked, who is the present Prime Minister of Britain, which would be Johnson. So you have to work out, okay, that's this number of letters. So it probably is called some technical, type of anagram word game, but for me it's just a crossword. I love this app. It's free. I mean, you can pay for things in game, but I just use the free version. I just use it when I can't study or I've just got dead time. So, for example, I was waiting to go to a meeting the other day, and I had 20 minutes to kill. So I just flicked on my phone and played Codicross for 20 minutes. For me, it's a really, really easy app. You have it on your phone. It doesn't cost you any money. I wouldn't exactly say that it would form the basis of all of my study plans, but as you can just think of it as a modern crossword app. It's great because the questions are in Spanish, and you have to think. Firstly, you have to understand the questions, and secondly, you have to be able to think of the answer. So you might know the answer in English, and you're like, I know what that is in English, but you haven't got a clue what that is in Spanish, and you slowly have to work it out. You get lives, and you can get help. There's in-game help. If you use the free version, you could probably play the game for an hour, 2 hours each day without actually having to spend any money. If you really wanted to spend 6 or 7 hours a day using the app, which I really don't think would be very useful, you'd probably have to pay some money for it, but the game is actually free, and I think it's great. It's one of those apps which you can just pick up, and you can use Spanish indirectly, and you can lose 20 minutes, an hour playing the game when you've got some dead time. So Codicross I would strongly recommend to anybody who's learning a language. Now obviously I'm using this to refer to Spanish, so if you are a Spanish learner or Spanish language learner, I would suggest definitely using Codicross, having it on your phone or your iPad or whatever it is you use. And when you're not really in the mood for studying, or you've got some dead time, flick it on and you can essentially just fill in crosswords in Spanish, which gets your brain ticking over. You're thinking, all right, I know the word. There was a word, I can't remember what the word is now, but there was a word I was trying to spell for the crossword, and I kept using G instead of H, so it kept coming back. It was wrong, and I was like, God, how do you spell this word? And I finally worked out that I had to use J instead of G. So if you're into that type of sort of non-frenetic games, which is just, it's like a modern form of a crossword, get asked questions in Spanish, and you can just write the answers in Spanish. I think it's great. The only downside for me is that sometimes the questions are absolutely crazy, so it'd be like, who is the Greek god of war? I honestly haven't got a clue who that is. So it takes you a bit of time sometimes to work out what the answer is. And the other thing is, and this might be a stupid criticism, but I think it's important, is when you're actually writing in your answer, it doesn't ask you to use, or you don't need to use, accent marks in the words in Spanish, which is fine, but obviously if you're trying to really learn the language, you want to be picked up on that, so you have to make sure that you write the accent exactly where it's needed, if it's needed. So for me, the only downside to Cody Cross is that you're not required to use accent marks when you're typing your answer. My second app is the Scrabble app. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to explain what the Scrabble app is. It's Scrabble. I play Scrabble at Christmas. Scrabble is a word game where you're given letters. I think you're given 8 or 9 at the beginning of the game, when you have to create words using the letters. Each letter has a point value, and the more complex and longer the word, the more points you get for the word, and at the end of the game, whoever's got the most points wins. It's great. I love it because it's just you and the language. I mean, you're given your letters and you're like, how can I use these letters to get the most points? I absolutely love it. It really helps you think about how to spell words, how to combine letters that you've got, and obviously you're really racking your brains on how to use the language. I mean, I just love it because it's a natural way of really trying to use the language. It's brilliant. There is a problem with the app. I think the biggest problem, and it's really annoying, I must admit, is the number of ads that they have. Ads are literally pop up every couple of minutes. But if you use the app for, say, 10-15 minutes, it's no problem. I mean, I used it yesterday. I had about half an hour before I had a class, and I could have done some reading or done some washing up, and I was like, well, I don't really want to do either of those things, so I just played Scrabble for 25 minutes. So it's, again, I don't think it's an app that you'd really want to put as the centre of your learning plan, but it's one of those apps that you can use on a regular basis where you've got some dead time, and it really, really forces you to just realise just how bad your language skills are when you're thinking, God, I can only make a 4-letter word out of these letters. But it's brilliant when you actually beat a native speaker at Scrabble, and you've got 190, 210 points, and they're 30 or 40 points behind you. You're just like, yeah, I really like that. So there's a competitive side to it, which you can get into or not, but just using the language is really what's key. So yeah, I would strongly suggest using the Scrabble app, but be warned, the number of apps on it is an absolute nightmare.